Today in media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you on the current topics, impact of COVID-19, etc. But today I would like to inform that today media conference with Lal Goel has completed 6 months. First show was on 22nd March 2020. On this show, guests from all walks of life participated and put forward their views, be a sitting union minister, former ministers, vice chancellors, former vice chancellors, former Supreme Court and High Court judges, former RB generals, former air marshal, present and former bureaucrats, director general of police, serving police officers and former police officers, doctors, advocates, singers, farmers, industrialists, businessmen, media personals, professionals, housewives, teachers, students, etc., etc. To do a daily show has lots of challenges, but with God's grace, blessings and good wishes of you all, I am sailing through. I would like to extend my thanks to all the viewers, all the participants, all live telecasting channels, Gyan and Organ Donation India Foundation for their wholeheartedly support. Lastly, I want to thank my mother, Srimati Suraj Lata Goel, for instilling the social service in me. She was born in 1927 and her parents named her Swarajya, which was indication of their commitment to freedom struggle. She unfurled national flag on Holkar College building Indore in 1942. She was a state champion of almost all the games like tennis, cycling, swimming, racing, etc. She did MSc chemistry and topped Agra University in 1948 and got gold medal. She was a dedicated social worker with the aim of women empowerment. She was awarded by FICCI for Outstanding Social Worker of 1999, which was presented by then Finance Minister Mr. Yashwant Sinha at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. Today, she is not there, but on her 93rd birthday, I dedicate this program to her, for which she always worked whole life. Now, before I will talk about the women empowerment and social work, today world is observing World Rose Day, welfare of cancer patients. Rose Day enables the world to stand for the welfare of cancer patients and helps in creating hope for cancer patients for the availability of its cure. The world celebrates this day in the memory of a 12-year-old Melinda Rose, who is a resident of Canada. Melinda was diagnosed with a rare form of blood cancer and did not give up hope to fight the disease. We all should come forward and give hopes to cancer patients. Now, on the today's topic, women empowerment and social work. The empowered women is powerful beyond measure and beautiful beyond description. Social work mantra, I am the last defense, the lone voice, a fighter, a listener, a helper, a healer. Say it loud, say it proud, I am a social worker. Women's empowerment is the process of empowering women. Empowerment can be defined in many ways. However, when talking about women's empowerment, it means accepting and allowing women who are on the outside of the decision-making process into it. Women's empowerment is the most crucial point to be noted for the overall development of a country. Empowerment is the process that creates power in individual over their own lives, society, and in their communities. People are empowered when they are able to access the opportunities available to them without limitations and restrictions, such as in education, profession, and lifestyle. Feeling entitled to make your own decisions create a sense of empowerment. Empowerment includes the action of raising the status of women through education, raising awareness, literacy, and training. Women's empowerment is all about equipping and allowing women to make life-determining decisions through the different problems in society. Women's economic empowerment refers to the ability for women to enjoy their right to control and benefit from the resources, assets, income, and their own time, as well as the ability to manage risk and improve their economic status and well-being. Entire nations, businesses, communities, and groups can benefit from the implementation of programs and policies that adopt the notion of women empowerment. Empowerment of a women is a necessity for the very development of a society, since it enhances both the quality and the quantity of human resource available for development. Women's empowerment and achieving gender equality is essential for our society to ensure the sustainable development of the country. Many world leaders and scholars have argued that sustainable development is impossible without gender equality and women's empowerment. Sustainable development accepts environmental protection, social and economic development, including women's empowerment. Therefore, scholars agree that women's empowerment plays a huge role in development and is one of the significant contributions of development. Social work is a practice-based profession that promotes social change, development, cohesion, and the empowerment of people and communities. Social work practice involves the understanding of human development, behavior, and the social, economic, and cultural institutions and interactions. Social work practice is often divided into micro work, which involves working directly with the individuals or small groups, and macro work, which involves working with communities and within social policy, fostering change on a larger scale. And to discuss today the women empowerment and social work, we have a very, very elite panel with us, well qualified, well experienced, and very well known persons are with us. I would like to invite my first guest. He is Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS. Dr. Bose is one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. He is also the principal advisor, Government of India Heritage Project. He is the chairman of Indian Red Cross, Kerala. He was the vice chancellor of National Museum, University of Delhi. He has authored 40 books in English, Malayalam, and Hindi, including novels, short stories, and essays. 4 of his books have become bestsellers. 4 books on Vastu and architecture, and 1 book on housing received prestigious the Sharjah International Book Fair Award. Dr. Bose is an housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. The path-breaking institutions set up by him, such as Nimriti Kendra Building Center, District Tourism Council, and Habitat Alliance, have been replicated at the state, national, and global level. He was the head of the prestigious Supreme Court Committee on the Treasures of Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple. Dr. Bose addressed United Nations General Assembly and specialized sessions 5 times on various international issues. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also received prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship. Kerala government termed him Lord of Ideas. Former Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh called him inspired civil servant, and our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi called him man of ideas. Welcome Dr. Anand Bose on our show. Dr. Bose, our topic today is the empowerment of women and social work. We all know that we are talking for the empowerment for not now, for many, many centuries. Now, we would like to know the empowerment of women and social work from Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. At the outset, let me give my humble salutations to the dear departed, your dear mother, for the outstanding contributions which she has given to humanity. I salute her in all humility. about the status of women in India. There is a lot of dichotomy between the myth and the reality. In the scriptures, we glorify the women. It is said, Yatra Naryasta Pujyante, Ramante Tatra Devata. Where women are honored, there the gods rejoice. We hold in high reverence our goddesses Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. We also have in the temporal world success stories of great women like the Rani of Jhansi, or an Indira Gandhi, or an Indira Nui. But one swallow does not make a summer. The real status of Indian women is far from the glorification which we are making in the scriptures. Now, this is not particularly true of this country. Take the great Greek society. See, we always honor and revere Aristotle. But Aristotle had a bias against women. He said, using the tools of inductive logic, he said, to establish that a woman is not perfect or woman is inferior to man, he said, a circle is perfect. Egg is not circular in shape. Egg is elliptical. Therefore, egg is not perfect. Hen lays the egg, so hen is not perfect. Hen belongs to the female species, so females are not perfect. Taking it one step ahead, he said women have 2 teeth lesser than that of men. Not a single Athenian cared to count the teeth in his own wife's mouth. They believed it. So this misconception against the women is not a fact of contemporary world. It has always been there. But now, there are also beliefs and folklore and legends which underscore this concept that women are inferior. In Telugu, there is a proverb which means, translated in English, it means to raise a girl is like watering the plants in the neighbor's garden. So this is the approach which traditionally we have to women. In this context, it is no wonder that women do not get the rightful place which they have in society. Now, what is the rightful place which they have? Do we need any more evidence for this? When this whole country was locked down, who ran this country? Who kept us above starvation? It is the illiterate and semi-illiterate mother. 140 crores of people were fed. Their mental health was taken care of by the women folk of this country. Do we need any further evidence to show that women are superior to men? See, if India did not break down, if India did not go to depression or mass psychosis, who is responsible for that? The women. Yes, it was a kitchen cabinet which ran this country. And they ran the country so efficiently. Now tell me, do we need any further evidence or empirical formula to understand the capabilities embedded in the Indian women? Now, platitudes are not enough. How are we going to pay them? How are we going to pay back our indebtedness to them? Well, after the COVID, let us all take a resolution to empower the women. How? Not by platitudes, not by statements. Why not reserve 50% of the seats in parliament and assemblies and the Panchayat Raj institutions to the women? Yes, they have proved that they can run a country. They run a country not only taking care of its food and its health requirements, even its mental health. Women have shown their strength. Therefore, it is up to us to see that we devise ways and means, policies and legislation to see that Indian women do get the rightful place in society. Now, my friend who was in the IPS, he was heading the National Crime Records Bureau. He told me every 3 minutes, there is an attack on women in this country. Every 29 minutes, there's a rape. Every 77 minutes, one woman is killed. Now, there is a particular type of stove which is available only in India. This stove will explode only on the bride who comes without adequate dowry. No stove explodes on the bridegroom. The same stove in the same house, in the same kitchen, does not explode on the mother-in-law. It explodes only on the woman. Therefore, there are certain deep-rooted causes which are embedded in our society, which has to be weeded out if Indian women are to get their rightful place in society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bose, for giving your views. And Dr. Bose has very clearly says that initially, yes, the conception or the views about the women were not good. And especially he quoted about Aristotle, and he says that Aristotle has disgracefully compared the women, and they says that they are not perfect. But afterwards, all the scholars, all the thinkers, they have given the place for the women, and they says no, women are not at all for the men. They are rather equal or rather superior to the man. And for that, he has given example of the today's condition, and he has also mentioned that we have examples in India, Rani Lakshmi Mai, even Indira Gandhi ji, and as well as Indira Nuyoni, who have run this country very well. And he said that the present condition in this COVID-19, the kitchen cabinet, the women, because of them, we all are surviving. The 140 crore people are surviving. Not only by they are feeding, but they are also giving the mental health. That is very, very important. So, according to Dr. Bose, we cannot think that the women are inferior to us. Rather, we can think that they are superior to the men. And according to Dr. Bose, the only thing which we should do now is to give them the 50% reservation in parliament, in the assemblies, as well as in the Panchayat Raj. Thank you very much, Dr. Bose, for giving your very strong views about the women. I'm sure the women community will definitely be happy to hear, especially about the 50% reservation, which we are also listening for many, 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 many years now. Now, I would like to go to our next guest, and she is Mrs. Deepa Kaul. Mrs. Kaul is a former cabinet minister, social welfare, government of Uttar Pradesh. She was the member of Legislative Council, Uttar Pradesh from 1985 to 1994. She was Minister of Information, Environment, Culture, Science and Technology, Sports, Civil Aviation. She was Minister of Social Welfare, which covers women, child, ex-servicemen, blind, disabled, etc. She was instrumental in creating the first war memorial in Lucknow. As Minister of Culture, she successfully held all the programs of Indo-Soviet Festival in UP and was able to project UP culture in the festivals in Soviet Union and Mauritius. She was able to hold the 40 years of Independence Day celebrations in UP state and the centenary celebrations of Pandit Goel Ballabh Pant, Dr. Radha Krishnan, Shankaracharya in Kedarnath, and Maithili Sharan Gupta, our national poet. She also got organized 100 years of Vidhan Sabha, where the Prime Minister was the chief guest. She was a delegate to Berlin for International Conference on Women in 1975. In 1982, she alone represented India for Peace Conference under the banner of Peace Program in Bulgaria, Sofia. In 1983, invited by the Japanese Parliament for Peace Mission. In 1989, she attended Indo-Soviet Festival in Leningrad. Her social welfare activities made her member of UP Awas Vikas Parishad, member of National Institute of Physically Handicapped at Delhi, executive member of National Institute of Visually Handicapped at Dehradun, and member of Delhi Public Library. She resigned from our committees when she became minister in UP. She was member of UP Council of Child Welfare. She was treasurer of Red Cross Society. She was on the board of Bal Bhavan Delhi. She was member of Delhi Film Screening Committee. She was on the Telephone Advisory Board, etc., etc., etc. If I will read all it will take the complete program. So my apologies to you, Mrs. Kaul. Yes, so today, Mrs. Kaul, welcome to our show. You have heard Dr. Bose has said, and he said very clearly, India is having a very glorified our history as far as the women is concerned. And he said, forget the past, even the present, women have proved that what they are. And this COVID era, if we are surviving because of the food, because of our immunity, as well as mental health, only because of our the women, whether mother, grandmother, sister, wife, or daughter. So, and he advocates that the government should give 50% reservation to the for the women's in parliament, legislative councils, or the assemblies, as well as in panchayat. Now, we would like to know empowerment of women and social work. Mrs. Deepa Kaul, please.
Lalji, namaskar once again. And I'd like to thank you for inviting me along with such learned guests. Women empowerment is not just a topic to be discussed for me, but for improvement of our own lives, I feel. It is imperative that we do the utmost that we can on this long struggle that we have ahead of us. Mr. Bose, thank you. You have given us such a vision of the whole from the past right up to the present. And with this, I would also like to ask just a minute to pay my respects to the great lady, your great mother, Mataji, Srimati Saralata Goelji. I remember a moment when I met her, and she mentioned how with her cousins and brothers, she would just jump into the Ganga Canal near Murshia, somewhere near Meerut, I think it was. A person who can do this, just jump into a overflowing canal, can do anything in life, I feel. Because she had no fear for anything. She was so full of confidence. And that took her to great heights in her passion to work for the widows, especially in Mathura, and for the poor women. Along with Mohini Giriji, they did a long struggle to get the women uplifted. So this is all women empowerment going on. And I would also like to congratulate you, Lalji, for doing this exemplary work with your organ donation. It's like, I feel it's like prayer to God. It's like an ibadat. You're saving so many lives. I mean, I'm a great admirer of your work, I think. I think we all must be, because you're really doing great work with this organization. And a very happy birthday to you, for your mother and to your whole family, and great wishes for your own work. Today is Cancer Day, and you do it, you say Rose Day, and I know it's very painful, but people who have lost their dear ones couldn't be worse. And we can only say, laymen like us, that we wish some good cure and environment can come out of the great struggle that all the doctors and researchers are doing, and come up with some cure that this thing, like what is happening in this COVID period, we hope and pray that this COVID thing also disappears and we are able to stand in a free air and atmosphere. And like Meera ji was saying, I wouldn't like to call it COVID, I mean lockdown. It's really, we are doing and we are getting more close to each other, I feel. And I would like to thank the, this laptop and all this technology which has come up. So in this period, we are getting so close to each other. So this is all empowerment to us, I feel. We are able to do this. And the central government and state governments and NGOs, they are doing utmost for the uplifting of lives. When we speak and think of empowerment, there are many aspects through which it has to be done. The social angle, educational, economical angle, political, along with psychological upliftment, I feel. These five all together go together. It's like a band mutti, I feel, that when we can push all these angles together, only then a woman can get really empowered. Quickly, I would like you to hear this as simple examples. I know Mr. Bose has given such good examples of the great ladies of our land and other examples, but I'm a very grassroots worker. So what I've seen, I just like to take a minute and speak about that. I had a fairly poor couple from UP remote area working for me. In short, I insisted that our children go to school. They had a boy and two girls. The elder girl was not very keen on studies, but she completed her basics. And in the meantime, we taught her how to sew clothes. The younger one was brighter. She learnt well and told us her plan that she wanted to learn beauty parlor work. She learnt it well, and soon she was working and earning enough to start her own beauty parlor. She roped in her sister, seeing her work and confidence. The boy whom she finally married pestered her to marry him. The family is doing very well and with dignity. I would say that she got empowered, who understood what she wanted and she stood by that. The second case is also of a cleaning maid. I mean, these are very small examples, but what I've seen is happening because of the society, which is growing towards this, our vision. Of a cleaning maid, I have yet to see a girl with such determination to educate her three daughters. Her children are doing very well. Here, the psychological factors did count, I feel. Her children were called by my grandkids to play with them on equal terms. Her daughter in law participated regularly. My daughter in law participated regularly with cakes, etc., on their birthdays. We have never made them feel that they are any less than any of us. Economics is definitely a very important factor. Once a Mahila understands how to handle her economics, she may be uneducated, but still she can stand up on her own if she can be infused with confidence by her family, by society, and by laws of the land. With the media playing such a massive role in molding our lives, young girls, educated girls, full of desires, get drawn towards politics. The two factors of equal wages for equal work and one-third reservation for women in posts of panchayat and municipalities now through constitution has worked wonders. It took some time, for in panchayat elections, Mahila was given the opportunity to contest. But who went and stood in her place in the office? Her strong man husband. Her husband. A new phrase came about. Pradhan Pati. Pradhan Pati ban gaye. It was hilarious for us. But slowly, with the help of government agencies and NGOs, Mahila now stand on their own mostly. Some of the fundamental rights given to Mahila in our constitution, in short, I like to read some of the articles. Article 14 enshrines equality before law for women. And Article 15 states that the state cannot discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. The state to make special provision in favor of women and children. And in Article 16, equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state is guaranteed. And Article 13 also, the state has to direct its policy for equal rights to an adequate means of livelihood and equal pay for equal work for both men and women. In 1975, I had the opportunity to participate in the first International Women's Conference in Berlin, where the conference passed the resolution for the equal wages for equal work. As Parliament was not on, the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi at that time, through ordinance, passed the bill to be rectified later. 1985, I was fortunate to chair the UP State Committee for the same purpose. Similarly, Article 42 says the state has to make provision for securing just and humane conditions of work and maternity relief. And lastly, Article 46 and Article 51A are all for protection of women. Reservation of 1/3 of the post in panchayats and municipalities for women is also provided in the constitution. Now, Mr. Bose has asked for 50%. Let us all fight for that. India has ratified various international conventions and human rights committing to secure equal rights for women. Recently, the Supreme Court gave equal rights to women in property under the Hindu Succession Act 1956. There's a Ministry of Women and Child Development and a National Commission for Women to deal with policy and implementation interventions. Now, I would say that suggestions I think we can give later on. We can give this. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mrs. Call, for giving your views.
Because I will just like to say, you see, we've all got to say so much, and time is very short. It's like a rubber; you can only extend till that much. You see. It's a matter of physics.
Yes, and you have mentioned, Mrs. Call, about Mrs. Mohini Giri. And fortunately for us, Mrs. Mohini Giri is with us. Mrs. Giri, are you there? Can you just switch on your video, please? Mrs. Mohini Giri, if you are there, please switch on your video. She's there. I can see her, but I think some problem. Mrs. Giri, if you can switch on your video. Okay, we will take her afterwards if she's there, if she remains there. Now, I would like to go to our next panelist, and she is Mrs. Meera Khanna. Mrs. Khanna is the writer, poet, and voluntary social activist. She is a trustee and executive vice president of the Guild for Service, member of the Global Expert Committee on Widows and Older Women constituted by Every Woman Everywhere, spearheading the Global Alliance, the Last Woman First. Mrs. Giri, are you there? Can you switch on your video, please?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here. I've switched on my video.
No, we can't see you. Please switch on your video also, so we can see you. Right now, only we can use see your listen your voice.
Can you see me?
Yes, now we can. Yes, we can see you. I will just introduce about you. One moment, Madam Giri.
No, don't introduce. Don't introduce. I'll just give my blessings. That's all right.
Padam Bhushan.
I'm indeed very happy. I'm indeed very happy that on my friend Swaraj's birthday, you are having this program on women's empowerment, for which she was very, very keen. I bless everybody here, but I would like to just emphasize one thing, that the roots of patriarchy are like they have just held on to this country. It's not going. Let us not talk about reservation. Let us not talk about anything. Let us go to those villages and see, even today, a woman's voice is not heard. Even today, a woman is just like a cow. That is what she is designated, and that is what she is like. So we have to today work to see that she becomes unchained and totally free. Freedom is what we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Giri, for giving your such a nice and kind words. I'm sure your blessings will definitely reach to her also and to every one of us. Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to say namaskar to Mohini ji. Mohini ji, this is Deepa.
Very nice meeting you, Deepa. Very, very nice. I remember your mom when I see you.
I know. So nice to meet you here.
What a person she was. My dynamic woman.
Now I would like to go back to our Next guest, she is Mrs. Meera Khanna. She is the writer, poet, and voluntary social activist. She is trustee and executive vice president, the Guild for Service, member of the Global Expert Committee on Widows and Older Women, constituted by every woman everywhere, spearheading the Global Alliance, the Last Woman First, member core committee, South Asian Network for Empowering Widows in Development, member UN Women's Civil Society Advisory Group India. Previously, she worked as a consultant with the high-level committee on the status of women, Government of India, was the member of the expert committee on widows constituted by the National Commission for Women, member of the expert committee on widows constituted by the Supreme Court of India. She is a social activist with 18 years of experience in development field with major focus on women's empowerment and capacity building, particularly in rural India. Her commitment endures are in capacity building of marginalized women with a special focus on widows and aging widows and conflict widows, building leadership skills among women, grassroots leaders, grassroots work, and advocacy work among widows, especially involved with militancy affected widows and children of Kashmir since 2000, building capacities of underprivileged children and young adults in rural areas. As founder trustee of Women's Initiative for Peace in South Asia, work towards building a cohesive South Asian identity, starting with creating a climate of peace through people-to-people contact and reinforced through cultural exchanges. She spearheaded the Global Alliance on Last Women First, spearheaded and on the board of a regional alliance, South Asian Network for Widows Empowered in Development, drafted the resolution on widows for UN action presented to the Under Secretary General UN Women, Ms. Michelle Bachelet. The resolution was supported by more than 80 organizations across the world. Presentation to the CEDAW in Geneva on the rights of widows. She has written extensively on gender-based issues for newspapers and magazines, written in genres of poetry and fiction based on narratives of conflicts and women in conflicts with the pressure of conformity. She also wrote poetry, blank verse in English on women's empowerment, which has been choreographed into classical dance format. She authored a book on poems on Kashmir, If There Will Be a Paradise. In a State of Violent Peace, a book based on 14 narratives of those who have seen the genesis of the conflict in Kashmir. Breaking Paths, a collection of stories of ordinary women who find courage within themselves. She was awarded the Women Achievers Award by MIT University, Horizon Summit Award for fostering peace within the individual by the Women's Federation for World Peace. Thank you very much for joining us, Mrs. Meera Khanna. All of yours bio is so long. It was very, very tough for me to shorten it, but I could not shorten more than this. So for my apologies to everyone. So Mrs. Meera Khanna, you have already heard what Dr. Bose, what Mrs. Deepa Kaul, as well as Mrs. Mohini Giri has said. Now we would like to know from you the empowerment of women and social work. Mrs. Meera Khanna, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Lalji, and very hearty namaste to the panelists as well as all those who are hearing this program, and a special namaste to my mentor and guide, Dr. Mohini Giri. It is of course a privilege to be talking on a program which is dedicated to Swaraj Lata Goel, because I had the immense privilege of working with her when the Guild of Service, spearheaded by Dr. Mohini Giri, started Amar Badi, the home for widows in Vrindavan. And we started this in way back in 1998, and I'm happy to say that the shelter home is doing very well. It has grown. It has gone beyond just a shelter home. It is also a capacity building center now. And I have very fond memories of Swaraj because she had such a big heart and she was so generous and empathetic. So really, in a way, I would say that the seeds of Amar Badi were actually sown by Dr. Giri along with Swaraj. And it is really my pleasure to talk on a program that is dedicated to her. Thank you for this long introduction that you gave, but I really would like to be known as a woman an Indian woman who's working for other Indian women in this country. That I think that little introduction encompasses everything and all the work that I do both at grassroots level and at advocacy level. Uh, at the outset, I would like to say that social work today has manifested into developmental work. So it is no longer a welfare model of work. It is more a rights-based and an entitlement-based approach. So it is no longer based on volunteerism and the sporadic philanthropy. It is now based on professional expertise backed by facts and figures and project management. So in a sense, social work, or what we call developmental work, is really the industry of the future, because inequities and inequalities are only growing in the world. Now, I have always maintained, and I'm glad to see Dr. Bose also said that, I've always maintained that India is a land of contradictions. And this is, which contradictions, which while they're contradicting, are also complementary to each other. And this is best seen in the status of women in this country. We give women a temple, we make her a demigoddess, but we don't give her a womb to be born, as you can see by the large numbers of feticide. India has, that India has a very alarmingly low sex ratio. India's had a woman president, we've had woman prime minister, we've had women chief ministers, women cabinet ministers, but the 16th Lok Sabha showed a representation of only 12% of women. Knowledge is symbolized by a goddess, the Saraswati, but female literacy lags behind men's literacy rate. Now, having said all this, let me also reiterate very categorically that there has been a great change in the status of women over the more than 7 decades of after independence. But there has been a change, but I would say, ye dil mange more. Obviously, there is so much more that is to be done. Now, there are some positives, and I will like to focus on it for a little while. In 2001, the population of women was about 49.7 crores. By 2011, it became 58.7 crores, and women make up almost 48.5% of the Indian population. But the twist is there. The twist is that we have an alarmingly low sex ratio of 914 to 1,000 males. We have come a long way from 1950, when only 9% of the female population could read and write. Today, at least 2 out of every 3 women can at least read and write. But there is a twist. As against 79.2% of male population who are literate, the female literate population is only 58.75%, which is little more than the half mark. Upper primary enrollment dropout rate has declined from 5.7 million. Sorry, enrollment rate has declined from 5.7 million to about 4.2 million. That is a dropout rate. That's very encouraging. But remember, these figures are in millions. So there are 4 million girls out there who are not in school, who are either taking care of household work or taking care of their siblings or getting married at the age of 12 or 13. Uh, in the higher education, the total enrollment rate is 28.56%, and girls make up 44.4% of the total enrollment. But women who are entering the educational institutions, higher number of women are entering the educational institutions at a higher rate, at a higher secondary rate, but this is not translating into the formal job market. So, with every change that we have made, every positive change that we have made, there are twists to this. So I want to ask whether, are women actually disempowered, or is it a bogey that is being raised by gender rights activists like us and policy makers? Now, gender equality, which we've been talking about, which is a prerequisite to empowerment, it means, like Dr. Bose said, equality of treatment under law as well as equality of opportunity. And there is also substantial equality and equality of agency. That is, you have the choice to decide. In the Human Development Report, which covers countries across the world, the Gender Inequality Index, India's position is 129 out of 189 countries. That means there are only 60 countries in this world who are worse off than us in terms of gender equality. Now, gender inequality is not just because you can't just put it as patriarchy. Gender inequality exists because of a combination of patriarchy, public policy, and poverty. So there are, as far as when I look at this entire question of women's empowerment, I see two major contributing factors which lead to the disempowerment of women. One is, of course, the feminization of poverty, and the other is the overarching culture of violence against women. And when I mean violence, I don't just mean domestic violence or rape and assault, but also incapacity to access the infrastructure of health or education is violence. Skewed property rights or inheritance rights is again violence. Not having freedom of mobility is violence. No access to resources is also violence. So two contributing factors, feminization of poverty and overarching culture of violence. Now, in feminization of poverty, I always ask this question. Women, it's a known fact that women are unequal and women are poor. So the question that I want to ask is, are they poor because they are unequal, or are they unequal because they are poor? Now, according to the United Nations Development Agencies, the Human Development Report, the gross national income in India, the gross national income per capita in India for women in 2016 was 2,184 rupees. And while for men, it was 8,897 rupees. What is extremely worrying, and Dr. Bose will corroborate me on this, is the decreasing labor force participation rate of women. In 2016, according to the HDR, the female participation rate, labor force participation rate was 26.8, while for males it was 79.1. And our country ranks 11th globally from the bottom on the parameter of labor force participation for women. And this employment is progressively becoming invisible with growing informal, part-time, home-based work, and also when women are asked to leave jobs, particularly now in the post-COVID days. So women are in these unorganized sectors which resists regulation and resists statistical enumeration. The declining participation of women in the labor force translates into declining economic presence and proportionately increasing economic dependence on the family, or let us read, on the man of the house, which means they're dependent on the men, and they're also dependent on state social security nets. The other important fact that I want to bring out, and I would like Dr. Bose's take on this, is the proportion of female-headed households in India has increased between 2001 and 2011. And today it stands at 27% of households in India are female-headed. And now it is a known fact that globally, female-headed or female-maintained households are highest on the deprivation scale. Now, from a global perspective, and like as one of our panelists rightly said, this is not the case only of India. From a global perspective, women own only 1% of property, earn 10% of all income, and yet they produce half of the world's food. Why? Why does this happen? Now, there are a few factors, and I would like to just focus on these factors, why women are unequal and why feminization of poverty is a very evident phenomenon. First is gender inequalities and non-achievement of women's entitlements and capabilities put women at a distinct disadvantage. Secondly, they have limited material assets and also more limited social assets. and even cultural assets like education and knowledge. They work longer hours than men at both productive and reproductive activity and still earn less than men. And their capacity to lift themselves out of poverty is constrained by cultural, legal, and labor market constraints on their social and occupational mobility. And their marital status as widows or divorcees or deserted puts them very high on the vulnerability scale, particularly in Asian countries, which is predominantly patriarchal. Now, the division of labor by sex assigns women to a position which is actually on the crossroads between production and reproduction, economic growth, and human development. Now, production traditionally refers to all activities that contribute to the country's GDP. In other words, goods and services that are bought and sold in the marketplace. Now, reproduction, on the other hand, refers to those activities that add to taking care of the society's human resources, like bearing and rearing of children, caring for the members of the household who are old or disabled and who cannot take part in production activities. Now, human beings have to be born, brought up, cared for, then only they can become part of the labor force. In poorer countries and countries like ours, much of the reproductive work is carried out on an unpaid basis in the household because of a combination of social norms, habit, custom, family obligation. That is what families are. So, reproductive work, which is also called the care economy, has been typically excluded from economic analysis. Uh, for example, UNDP has indicated that women's invisible care economy or non-productive work, so-called non-productive work, equals to almost 48% of the world's GDP, which equals to about $11,000 billion a year. So you can imagine the amount of non-paid, unacknowledged, uh, unhonored work that women actually do. Now, the second point is, of course, the overarching culture of violence. In India itself, there has been a increase of 9.2% in the reportage of rape. And I think Dr. Bose talked about that every minutes a woman is assaulted, either sexually or otherwise. The other kind of poverty is not having resources, not having owning property. For example, women owning house or land in India jointly or alone or with others is only 38.4%. And the usage of that property is practically negligible. So the state of women in India as indicated in the Gender Inequality Index shows we have made changes. There are laws, for example, in terms of violence against women, there are a plethora of laws. Very recently, we've had the amendment to the Criminal Justice Act. And even though that there was a criminal section, the section 498A of the Indian Penal Code, despite that, there is a civil law now on domestic violence and to protect women against domestic violence. There's a review of the Hindu Succession Act, as Deepaji mentioned in 2005. There's a prohibition of the Child Marriage Act, Equal Wages Act. There are schemes like Beti Padhao and Beti Padhao. There's one-stop crisis centers. All these laws are there. There is an enforcement also. Yet, we are lagging behind as our inequality index shows. Even despite all these laws which are supposed to protect women against violence, Indian women, according to a study, lose 25% of their work days because of an incident of violence. And almost more than 80% of women work in the unorganized sector, which means they lose 25% of their wages because they're working in very exploitative profession. So I want to bring this link again. There is a very close link between violence against women and feminization of poverty. So are we looking at empowerment of women only because it is a feel-good factor? No, because gender inequality has a very direct bearing on the economic growth of nations. I will I will focus on that when we come to our questions.
Okay.
I think I'm running out of time. So now
Yes.
you know why this dil mange more.
Okay, thank you very much. Why this Dil Mange More, says Mrs. Meera Khanna, and she has given all the details with complete data. I am sure this will enlighten the viewers as well as our other panelists. Definitely would like, and especially Dr. Bose would like to take some note of it and definitely take some action. We'll see that some action should be taken by the government of India. Now I would like to invite our next guest. She's Mrs. Gauri Kumar. She's a retired member of the 1979 batch of Indian Administrative Services, IAS. She possesses varied experience of governance at the various levels of state and union government, cutting across a wide cross sections of sectors. She retired as Secretary, Coordination and Public Grievances, Cabinet Secretariat in 2015, and served as member chairperson of the Public Enterprises Selection Board from 2015 to 2018, post her retirement. In the course of her distinguished career, she has been a former secretary in the Union Ministry of Labor and Employment, as well as in the Ministry of Home Affairs. She has served as a special additional secretary, Ministry of Mines, and additional secretary and financial advisor, Ministry of Environment and Forest. She has also been principal secretary, Urban Development, Industries and Mines, Industries, Commissioners and Secretary, Education Department in Government of Gujarat. She also held the position of Director General, National Institute of Fashion and Technology, Ministry of Textiles. Mrs. Gauri Kumar holds a degree of BSc in Physics, Mathematics and Statistics from Allahabad University. She completed her MSc in Mathematics from Lucknow University and was awarded 7 gold medals in the course of her studies for exceptional academic distinctions. She also has a master's in public administration from John F. Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University. As a fellow of the Edward G. Mason Program in Public Policy and Management, she was awarded the Literature Fellowship by Harvard for commitment to excellence, academic achievement, and public service. Welcome, Mrs. Gauri Kumar, on our show. You have already heard what your earlier panelist said. I will not like to repeat because of the paucity of the time. Now, we would like to know the women empowerment and social work from Mrs. Gauri Kumar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. I feel very privileged, I must say, to be here on Swarajya ji's birthday. I didn't know that. I didn't know that she was a gold medalist in chemistry in 1948 and a great social worker. So hearty congratulations to you on being her son. And so I'm really delighted to be here. Dr. Bose covered aspects like gender parity in representation in the parliament, assemblies, etc. It was interesting hearing Deepaji on the constitutional provisions, on the kind of work that she has done. Madam Mohini Giri, of course, what work what contribution they were able to make in that era. We are still struggling with it, Mohini ji. And as you rightly said, the struggle is still on, but at that point of time, it must have been much more difficult to do it. Meera ji brought in a lot of reality check, a lot of statistics. So it was very interesting for me. So let me now try and give you a woman Babu's perspective who throughout her career has tried to integrate gender issues in policy making and execution. I believe the term woman empowerment has very different meanings in different contexts, different for different people, and in different yug. I think Dr. Bose talked about Yatra Naryantu Pujante. We wouldn't talk about Dol Gawar, Shudra Pashunari, we wouldn't talk about that. But, some view it as a militant revolution. Some view it as anguish of the oppressed. Some view it as us versus them in a confrontational, competitive environment. As a woman bureaucrat, for me, woman empowerment is not so much about women per se, but I think it is for society's own emancipation and evolution. It's about recognition and mutual appreciation of the distinct traits, aptitude, attitude that are considered dominant in the gender. It's about collaboration. Just as the left hemisphere of the brain is logical, analytical, scientific, whereas the right hemisphere stands for creativity, imagination, intuition, emotions. Now just imagine if we were only using half of our brain, how incomplete we'll be. Now when we start placing a higher value, a higher valuation on one or the other of these set of traits, we are falling in the trap, I believe, of those who use gender denigration, gender subjugation, and a lot of it was talked about, for power play or for satiating their very fragile egos. And in the process, I believe we are only half alive. And that's a very strong statement to make. I recall a presentation a long time back when I was Secretary Labor and Employment. I think Meeraji mentioned about very low labor force participation rate of India for women. We are lower than our neighbors. We are lower than Pakistan. We are lower than Bangladesh. I think when you couldn't go further, though Meeraji said that we perhaps are still going down. So we were having this presentation by various people, and I invited the Tata group. And they made a very interesting presentation. They said that, we are striving for gender parity all through the organization. And we have been given a target that at top management level, you got to have gender parity over a period of time. But what was most interesting was that they said, we are not doing it for the sake of women. We are doing it because we believe it's a sound business strategy. I think for me personally, that remains a cornerstone of sound management policy for any business. We've talked about COVID. Now, COVID has been a wake-up call, not only for the industry and businesses, but for all of us, individually and personally. It has exposed our vulnerabilities and I think busted a lot of myths, fads, ahankar, bhram, jo bhi naam aap dein usko. It is also a grim reminder of the consequences of our lost values of our virtues. Whether it is the neglected environment or it is the neglected migrant workers, Dr. Bose referred to it, or even women. Whoever was taken as granted, I think it is time to take stock of that, because it is no more that they need you more. We believed always they need us more than we need them. I think those days are gone. When they needed us more than we need them. And this is post-COVID, the new reality requires us to face up to this reality. We talk of Atmanirbhar Bharat. To my mind, Atmanirbhar Bharat, which calls for efficiency and optimization of resources, cost cutting. It requires us to leverage all complementary skills, all resources, and converge them. We have a very short window of opportunity, I believe, in which we'll have to optimize the ability of every single member of the family to create an Atmanirbhar family, an Atmanirbhar village, an Atmanirbhar district, an Atmanirbhar state, and an Atmanirbhar nation. And the multitasking, problem-solving, judicious, intersectoral capabilities with compassion and sensitivity, I think they are the most critical skills that we need to deal with this ongoing saga of COVID. If we don't seize the opportunity today, I think we would lose the short window of opportunity. Women are the ones who put food on the table, who every single day, and they're the most responsible members of the family. It seems to me that the work from home, which has been started, and Mohini ji referred to, I think Deepa ji referred to the technology. I think this opens a great window of opportunity for women to be proactively engaged in productive work, because then they don't have to travel, they don't have a problem of relocating, they don't have a problem of being there at the right time. And I hear a lot of women trying to get back into the labor force in some way or the other by leveraging their capabilities, their management strategies, I would say, surviving in these difficult times, putting food on the table is an extremely tough thing. And if somebody can do that, he certainly or she is wonderful in finance, wonderful in human resources, wonderful in management. So it's a great time for us to recognize the 50% of the population, which, or maybe 40% of the population, which is outside the labor force, in effective utilization of their skills. I had spent a year at Harvard University, as you mentioned, when the feminist movement was at its peak. That was in 93, 94. And a lot of my American friends would jokingly say, oh, you have all these missing girl children. Now, missing girl children is a euphemism for what Meeraji referred to as female infanticide, or the very poor, 9:30 or something ratio at birth between girls and boys. This was coined by Professor Amartya Sen at that point of time. And then I would revert with our typical argument, that Indira Gandhi was perhaps, as was popularly said, the only man in the cabinet. Though I don't know whether that's a compliment. When I was in PSB, one of the members would tease me and say that, Gauri ji, there was women empowerment. I don't know whether he's listening. It was Women's Day, International Women's Day. And I thought of picking up the phone and, wishing you on International Women's Day. And then I said, oh no, you're perhaps the only man on the board. So I don't know whether it's a compliment or not. And I certainly wouldn't like to be like a man, actually. I would like to be who I am. When they say men are from Mars and women are from Venus, there are definitely distinct traits, different skill sets, different sensibilities that women bring on the table, and I'm extremely proud of the women for doing that. I also used to say that in Swayamvar, the right to choose used to be that of the girls. So we are more liberated than the Americans would think. Now it is really for us to decide, frankly, which extreme we are on, because we swing from Yatra Naryantu Pujyante to Dhol Gavar Shudra Pashu Nari, Sakal Tarna Ki Adhikari. I think Meeraji or Deepaji, one of them mentioned that we don't want to be idolized, put on a pedestal, made like, they're normal human beings. And I think we need to leverage as a society. So it is for us to really make main cars of them, to portray, promote, believe in them as main cars, as Durga, as Saraswati, as Lakshmi, as Shubho Devi. I think this is the time when we have Shubho Devi. If you were to assess the society's perception, you need to look at the jokes. If you look at the jokes these days, I find every single joke is on husband-wife. At least half the jokes are on husband-wife. I think this is a portrayal which the society has chosen to put them in. Saas Bahu, husband-wife, the nagging wife, the dimwit wife, the bimbo wife, and the brilliant husband. I don't know if you're aware, one of the Harvard chairman, he said, women are very poor in mathematics. That I am a mathematics student is besides the point. But he said that women are very poor in mathematics. And the poor guy was ultimately made to resign. At least I'm glad people realize what a faux pas he made. So which group of women are we talking about, we want to portray, we want to actually box, pick up a box, put a woman in, put the box. You can't box them in. They're much too versatile, much too intelligent, much too brilliant to be put in a box. There are all kinds of women, just as there are all kinds of men. Some men are as sensitive as women. Some women are as hardy as men. But that doesn't mean that women need to be in one box and men need to be in the other box. I think it is time that the society realizes the importance and the significance of the elements which are equally important when we talk about business, we talk about management, Today, the management requires creativity. Today, the management requires innovation. It requires imagination. It requires emotion. People are talking of, since a long time. I mean, from industrial revolution to the information revolution to now the digital revolution. I think the time has come for us to catch on with this. And I would like to make a few suggestions in the end,
Sorry, can we come for the next round? Because then now I'm going to directly go for the suggestions only. So I would like to, so you have heard what Mrs. Gauri has mentioned. So all of our panelists have given their very, very strong views about today's topic. And now I would like to go for the suggestions, if any, to the government and advice to public, starting from Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, please. Please unmute Dr. Bose.
Thank you, Goel sir. I realize the time constraints, so I'll be brief. Before that, let me tell you one thing about Gauri. In the IAS, we say she's an icon, she's a role model. Now I realize why people are saying about that. Thank you. Thank you, Gauri. Now the suggestion. Here, Khanaji made a point about the unpaid, unhonored work which the women are doing. I'll relate it to something which is pernicious, which is happening in Indian society. There's a growing trend to send the mother to the old age home when she needs the company and the care of her children. This is something which we have borrowed from the West and also from America. We feel West is the best. This is a very, very pernicious trend. Throughout her life, the mother gives the care to the children. When she needs care, the children give her scare. This should not happen. What is my suggestion? My suggestion would be there should be a notional wage for the work which mothers are doing in the house, or the housewife is doing there. Every day, a housewife spends at least 14 to 16 hours working for the people in the house. Even if you give 50 rupees per hour, you see, when she comes to age 60, there will be a notional wage of more than 1 crore in her name. If the children want to throw her out, yes, she is entitled for this. If not, she will not claim this. I think the intangible services which are done by the housewives, that has to be quantified and it be enforced. Otherwise, this very, very disturbing trend of children throwing their mother to the old age home is something which society cannot tolerate. And I don't want to take more of your time. At this evening of my life, I can say something with confidence. If I have learned anything in my life, it is from my mother. And this is true of every citizen. You don't learn anything more in your life than what your mother has taught. If India is a great cultural superpower, if we are topping the world in IT, what does it mean? It means the Indian mother, the semi-literate and illiterate Indian mother brought up her child well. 3 cheers to the mothers of India. We salute them forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for your very, very heartening and very nice views and suggestions. Now, I would like to ask Mrs. Deepa Kaul for her suggestions to the government. And
something or the other, they are emotionally attached to the mother. There's more value in the lower strata of our society, and the higher society is going, like you said, is going towards the West. Everything they feel that the West is best, which it is not. Maybe in some technological areas, but not in the values, which we all have come to realize this thing. But very shortly, I'd like to say towards the government agencies, if somehow there could be some control on the media, the print and the electronic media, the films that we're producing, and we've got this now, the Twitter and the Facebook and all this, what is happening with the children always having there. So in this, even with, like Gauri, you were saying about the jokes, there should be, we can't say it's a law, but encouraged that the women are not shown in a demeaning manner. The language that they have, the songs that are written, the music that is played, it should be for the upliftment and in honor of women and men, both, I feel. Like, if you remember, when we got our independence, the movies that were coming, we were inspired by those movies to honor our elders, to honor a person, a women. If you remember all those beautiful movies that were coming, now all the movies and the media, the print and that, they've just gone haywire, I feel. And sometimes I don't feel like even watching the TV because of what is being sent and shown on the through the uh, process of this movies and the prints. So I think that is one valid point. And the legal awareness and the 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 women should have easy accessibility to law. They and it should be also cheaper because getting a lawyer and reaching for justice has become very, very expensive. And for especially for a person in a lower strata of society, it has become an impossible task. They go from pillar to post and then they do not succeed in getting the proper justice, I feel. So this is also the legal angle should be seen to, and also the media should be controlled. I think not. I don't want it should be controlled in a different way, but this that women should be not demeaned. This I feel little hurt when I see all these things on the screens.
Okay,
I'm
thank
sure all of you must do also. Anyway, let ourselves. We
Yeah.
have all our five areas of our society: the psychological, economic. They all we work for that. All the best.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Call, for giving your suggestions. Definitely, you have mentioned about the media, but I am sure that our media, which we are using, it's a very, very positive. We want to hear the real voices and the experts and those who have worked in the field.
I
We do
wish
not,
more like your media presentation comes up.
because we do not want to put our words on the other's mouth. Now, I would like to ask Mohini Giriji to say any suggestions or advice to the public or suggestions to the government. Please unmute. Please unmute, Mohini Giriji. Please unmute.
Unmute yourself.
Mrs. Giri, please unmute. You are on mute. Please unmute. No, we can't hear you. Mrs. Giri, we can't hear you. You have to unmute. Your voice is not coming to us. Anyway, when she will come, we will definitely take her. Mrs. Meera Khanna, your suggestions to the government and advice to public.
My suggestion to the government would be, first, a zero tolerance policy on violence against women. It has to be a zero tolerance, and there has to be a 360-degree approach towards violence. There is no point in having a law if you do not ensure that the enforcement agencies are sensitized to apply that law. Or there's no point in saying that there should be shelter homes if you do not have resources to support those shelter homes. So there has to be a 360-degree approach towards violence against women. And fast track courts, of course, are important, but the certainty of justice is even more important. So it is not just a question of justice, it's also the certainty of justice. We have already talked about reservation, the bill which has been pending for years. And let us hope the legislative body becomes gender sensitized, or I would say in their right minds, to pass the 50%. And I'm talking of 50% because if we are 50% of the population, why should we settle for 33% reservation in the parliament? And for the society, we talked about aping the West, thinking that the West is best and things like that. I think as a society, we need to understand that women's rights are actually human rights. And every tradition, custom, language in our country should be put on the test of one touchstone, the touchstone of human rights. If a tradition ensures the dignity of the woman, it nurtures the dignity of the woman, then I think it is a right practice. But if it violates the human right of being able to live a life of dignity, if it violates that right, then no tradition, even however old it is, it can be right. So we don't have to ape the West. We just have to look at our own culture, because if you look at our culture, if we read the Vedas actually talked about gender parity. In nowhere in the Vedas is it written that the woman should not be educated and only the boy child will be educated. In fact, there are verses which actually talk about a woman capable of ruling a society because she brings a huge amount of knowledge and experience to her role. So I think that recognition should be there. These are the three most important points that I want to.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Giri, now can you unmute yourself, please? Please unmute yourself.
She's not unmuting.
No, it was unmute. I think again it has. Now
Can you
you are
hear me?
unmute. Yes, we can hear
Can
you.
you-
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
yes, please.
All of you have said everything that has to be said, really. My one point agenda today for India is education, education, education. Unless you educate the girl child, she will never come on par. Point number one. Point number two, that we have stopped calling a woman as a housewife. She's only a coordinator, and all housework has to be shared by the husband and not expected that I will pay you this much and you will pay me this much. It has to be shared equally by both men and women. My third contention and the last one is that till we create a society enabling environment for the woman, we will not be able to reach that status of equality to man, because it's ingrained in society, as I said in the beginning. Thank all of you have said, and I'm very happy to have heard Gauriji especially, because yes, I remember her being as a secretary at that time, and I have also, perhaps she has forgotten, interacted with her. And Deepa ji, of course, I know her very well, and I'm very happy to have said a few words to you, although I'm not a panelist today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Giri. Although we know that you are not the panelist, but it was quite kind enough of you that you have joined and giving your very, very important suggestions and your views. Now I'd like to ask Mrs. Gauri Kumar to give her views, suggestions, if any, to government and advice to public.
Thank you. I believe we are in the world of technology, digital empowerment, etc. And that provides us a great window of opportunity, again, I would say, to do something for people, including women. I think Meera ji talked about feminization of poverty. That is the biggest bane of the women. And I would say this is the time when we need to, there are so many schemes, so many acts, but their implementation on the ground is poor. It is time that, like Meera ji said, whatever act you have, please try and ensure that you can execute it on the ground. Use retired officers, we'll all be very happy to be part of it. Use that. And the second thing, that whatever benefits need to come to anybody under any scheme, there has to be a single window, single entitlement at the CSC, at the village level, where I can go, I can say I'm a female, so-and-so's age, and somebody can tell me that these are the forms, and here you can apply. Now, that is my fond wish. We tried for it when we were in labor, but these are ongoing things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So today you have seen the views of that most experienced panel, and they have given their views very, very clearly, the plight of the women in India. They mentioned that, yes, women were not treated well, but they have also said they are the only pillars because of them, we all are surviving, even in this difficult time of COVID-19. So when we are talking today and we are giving full credit to the women, why we are not giving reservations, why we are not encouraging them to come to more and more in powers, to take the decisions and to make a very, very beautiful and a peaceful society. So today's program, which was telecasted live on V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV, News Gaon se Samvad Saroka News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring every day a new topic. And tomorrow's topic is media conference with Lal Goel, COVID-19 impact on organ donation. And our panelists are Professor Dr. Mujibur Rahman. He's MS, MR, CS, DNB General Surgery, DNB Urology, FICR, Professor and Head of the Department of Urology, Renal Transplant and Robotics, Yenupaya Medical College, Mangalore. We have another doctor. He's Dr. Joy Joseph, MD, DM Cardiology, Consultant, Interventional Cardiologist and Transplant Cardiologist, Lazy Hospital, Kochi. We have Dr. Santosh Pai, BH. He is a professor, head of the department, Nephrology, Yenupaya Medical College, Mangalore. Please join tomorrow at 10:30 for media conference with Lal Goel. And again, once again, I thank you all that we have completed 6 months. And I'm sure that with the blessings and God's blessings and best wishes from all of you, definitely we will continue our journey and bring the views of the experts on this media. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose. Thank you, Mrs. Deepa Kaul. Thank you, Mrs. Meera Khanna. Thank you, Mrs. Gauri Kumar. And my special thanks to Padam Bhushan Mohinigiri ji, who have joined and just to give the blessings. Thank you all for, and thank you all the viewers.
Thank you. Namaskar to all.
Thank you.